resign. 900 billion naira still in people's homes. CBN governor announces Buhari's approval of 10-day extension of old naira swap. Says 1.9 trillion naira old notes retrieved so far. EFCC, ICPC agents to now monitor guidelines implementation. Reps committee rejects extension. Says Apex Bank governor must appear before House.
Atiku wants banks to step up mobile banking. Nigerians should be grateful for his advice to Buhari. Spokesman. Extension of Naira swap, Tinubu vindicated, says APC. 9 die as container falls on passenger bus in Lagos. Gunmen kill 3 policemen at checkpoint in Ebonyi. 13 die in Ondo Bauchi auto crashes. Amotekun arrest 4 suspected herdsmen for allegedly destroying 30 hectares of cassava farm in Ondo. Allow us to go home and vote. Nance tells federal government wants government to close tertiary institutions nationwide. Jandor calls for Buhari IGP's intervention on incessant attacks on his campaign train. 5 die, 7 injured as mine collapses in Plateau. 3 weeks to end of campaign, Atiku Tinubu push for massive votes in 8 states. Court decides today on suit against Buhari. Uneasy calm in Osun as Adeleke Oyetola supporters bicker on social media. 2023 flood. NEMA asks states to be proactive. Calls for establishment of local emergency communities. And moving on to sports, Djokovic wins Australian Open equals Nadal record. Amadou Bello Stadium, federal government formally transfers custody to Kaduna State. NPFL Teaser Samuel earns 3SC first win of season. Shakespeare defend Australian Open women's doubles title. This and many more after this week. A very lovely Monday morning to you, dear listener of OSBC Radio 104.5 FM, Voice of the West, Iliawiye Okebale Oshobo, and I am Olubumi Ajiboye Agbola and Olushola Egbodofo, and we welcome you to today's edition of Headlines. The governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, has announced the approval of President Muhammadu Buhari of a 10-day extension from the January 31st, 2023 earlier deadline to February 10, 2023 to allow Nigerians still in possession of the old Naira note deposits such with their banks, just as it disclosed that a total of 900 billion naira is still in people's custodies. The Best Bank announced a 7-day grace period starting from February 10 to February 17 this year to allow Nigerians to deposit their old note at the CBN after the February deadline, when the old currency would have ceased to be legal tender in compliance with sections 23 and 22 of the CBN Act. Announcing the extension, Mr. Emefiele said a 10-day extension of the deadline from January 31st to February 10 to allow for collection of one old note legitimately held in Nigerians and achieve more success in cash swap in the rural communities, after which all old notes outside the CBN laws lose their legal tender status. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives Ad hoc Committee on New Naira Redesign and Naira Swap Policy on Sunday kicked against the 10-day extension granted by the Central Bank of Nigeria for the exchange of old Naira notes. In its swift reaction to the CBN position, the committee, chaired by the minority leader, Honorable Hassan Adodoguwa, rejected the extension, insisting that the CBN must comply with Section 20, subsections 3, 4, and 5 of the CBN Act. Doguwa The guru said further that Nigeria is a developing economy and a nascent democracy must respect the principle of the rule of law, and the House will go ahead to sign arrest warrants to compel the CBN governor to appear before the ad hoc committee. He said under his chairmanship, the committee will continue its work until it gets the demands of Nigerians addressed in accordance with the laws of the land, describing the extension as a mere political gimmick to further deceive Nigerians and worsen their economic and social livelihood. The guru said that the CBN governor must appear before the committee or stand the risk of being arrested on the strength of legislative writs signed by the Speaker on Monday.
In the meantime, presidential candidates of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, has commended President Muhammadu Buhari for approving the extension of the deadline for swapping of old Naira notes to redesigned ones. In a series of tweets on his verified handle, the former vice president noted that the Central Bank of Nigeria has finally listened to patriotic voices. In a separate tweet, the spokesman in his remark followed earlier plea he made to the president to approve a short extension. In a separate tweet, spokesperson of Atiku Abubakar campaign organization Kola Ologbuntiyan said Nigerians should be grateful for Atiku's plea should the president to give a little more time for the cash swap.
And before we move on to some other stories, we would like to tell our dear listeners that what we are looking at on today's edition of Headlines is new Naira due redesign, 900 billion Naira still in people's homes, CBN governor, and the extension of the exchange of the old Naira notes. And this is what we are going to look at on today's edition of the Headlines. And we'll be expecting your calls or contributions while dialing 081 877 5777. African Development Bank and other development partners have agreed to commit $30 billion to back the continent's resolve to boost agricultural productivity and become a breadbasket for the world. The commitment was made at the second African Food Summit in Senegal, which ended on Friday, with the AFDP planning to contribute $10 billion over 5 years, while the Islamic Development Bank intends to provide $5 billion. The AFDP said the Dakar 2 Summit, under the theme Feed Africa, Food Sovereignty and Resilience, adopted a declaration on the implementation of the summit resolution to be submitted to the African Union, organized by the Senegalese government and the AFDP. The summit rallied dozens of dignitaries, including 34 heads of state and government, 70 government ministers and development partners, to work tirelessly on compacts that can transform agriculture across Africa.
And away from economy to politics. With about 3 weeks left for campaign, no fewer than 8 states are the focal points of leading candidate for the February 25 presidential poll. The list of the states in the final phase of the campaigns for the election includes Oyo, Lagos, Adamawa, Taraba, Sokoto, Nasarawa, Katsina, and Imo State. The main candidate for the poll include former Vice President Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party, Senator Bola Tinubu of the All Progressives Congress APC, Mr. Peter Obi, Labour Party, and Senator Musa Kwankwaso of the New Nigerian People's Party (NPP). The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has lifted ban on electioneering for the election on September 28, 2022 to last for 150 days as followed under the Electoral Act 2022 as amended. Thus, campaigns by parties for presidential and National Assembly election began on that date, while that of governorship and state houses of assembly elections commenced on October 12, 2022. And a chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yacob, who announced it, said the last day of campaign for the presidential and National Assembly elections would end by midnight on Thursday, 23rd of February, while that of for governorship and state houses of assembly elections will be midnight on March 9 this year. Atiku and his team kicked off campaign for the election in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State last year. The last leg of the campaign is scheduled for Taraba State on February 1st to be followed by a rally in his hometown, Adamawa, on February 2nd.
All is now set by Federal High Court in Abuja to deliver judgment on January 30 in a suit seeking removal of President Muhammadu Buhari from office on account of alleged illegalities in the 2019 presidential election. The judgment billed to be delivered by Justice Inyang Ekwo will also resolve a request seeking to stop the conduct of the presidential election. A notice for the delivery of the judgments, it was gathered that it was served on the Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami as the Chief Law Officer of the Federation for President Muhammadu Buhari.
More stakeholders in Osun State on Sunday expressed mixed feelings over last Friday's judgment of the July 2022 governorship election petition tribunal that nullified the victory of Governor Ademola Adeleke. While there was relative calm across the major towns in the state after the protest on Saturday against the verdict of the tribunal, a number of individuals took to social media on Sunday to convey their dissatisfaction with the judgment. A source told Headlines that those behind the initial protest had resolved to sustain their agitations against what they perceived as a travesty of justice. Nonetheless, the others identified with Oyetola on the verdict of the tribunal. By a split vote, the tribunal cancelled the vote in 744 polling units of alleged overvoting and ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission to issue a certificate of return to the petitioner. And candidates of the All Progressives Congress, Alhaji Adeboyega Oyetola, who sought a second term in office during the election. In separate tweets, some individuals claimed that there was more to the judgment, pledging their support to Adeleke in the struggle ahead.
Naira redesign, 900 billion naira still in people's homes.
Yeah.
That is from the CBN governor, and the extension being announced by the same CBN, the extension to February 10th of next month. And we would like to know your reaction by dialing 081 877-5777. The extension of exchange of new naira notes and the old naira notes is what we are looking at.
Barely 24 hours after advising President Muhammadu Buhari against going ahead with his scheduled visit to Kano State today. Yeah. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, this is Alaski from Masaki, Ifesan local government. The extension given by the CBN is a welcome development, but there is a purpose for the government to introduce this redesign of the economy. According to President Muhammadu Buhari, he said that he redesigned Nigeria money because of the fraudulent politicians who are ready to buy the opinion electorate during the election. And there is a lot of money that will be people at home, which they have to deposit into their account in the bank, which they refuse to do so. So, to make sure that the government realize the purpose of introduction of the designing of the naira note, so they should not extend the time beyond 10 of this, the 10th of February. So that is to realize the mission of the designing Nigeria. Thank you so much.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Good morning.
My name is Anu Olaoye from the concerning the extension, the government and the governor of the central bank have given yes to the hearing of Nigeria populace. So Nigeria is incorporated by returning the old loans in time, as the governor has given give us more time to return the money. So I want Nigeria to cooperate. The billions outside the bank is so much. Let us return in the time. Thank you.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Morning, sir.
My name is Alagi Swena Yusuf. I'm not speaking from Missouri. The development is welcome because the town is not good as it was. We want the government to bring out the new roads, not only exempt them. It will bring the new note out. If the old notes enter the bank, you should not come out again. If they extend it by 3 months, and even if they don't bring the new notes, we still get the same result. Thank you.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, ma'am.
Morning, sir.
My name is Alaji Yusuf Adeleke.
You're welcome.
From Okebale. So this morning coming from Ilorin, Kwara State.
Wow, thank you.
The 10-day extension is a welcome development. So the announcement is related. People will now have more time to keep the announcement in the bank. That is the first of the nurses. God bless.
No.
Hello, good morning. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, Shona.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, Dr. Adisa is contributing from Beladuri.
You're welcome, sir.
The extension is a welcome idea. Though that time is really not enough. I was thinking for about 2 weeks or more than that. But one thing the bank should know is that these new notes are not coming now. Jewelers cannot get the money. And when you go to the bank, they still pay with these old notes. How will 900 billion not be outside? 900 billion is part of the money they are paying out. The money the old notes they are paying out is still part of that 900 billion. Yes, but by now they should not pay out the old notes again. They should pay out the new money and let it be everywhere for everybody to change. God bless this country. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to everyone.
Morning, sir.
It's okay, I would like to
You're welcome.
First and foremost, I want to thank the Central Bank of Nigeria for 10-day extension. This was very amount of relief for the common man in the society, economically. I thank them sincerely for this. And this will allow the new notes to be in circulation so that there will be peace among the people who are spending this money. Then for the remaining money in the circulation, that is the major concern of the population in the society. I think they should find a means of solving their problem. Our major concern is for the common man in the society. Good morning.
Thank you. Mommy?
Yes, let's move on to some other stories. 5 local miners were over the weekend killed while 7 others sustained injuries after a mining pit collapsed on them at Rukulu community in Barakinladi, local government area of Plateau State. A source close to the community said that the incident occurred on Saturday when some local artisanal miners went to the site to mine solid minerals. It was gathered that the miners were extracting minerals deposited some meters beneath the earth's surface when the pit suddenly collapsed on them.
The Special Advisor on Ondo State Governor on Health, Professor Francis Fadrile, has disclosed that the state has recorded 106 cases of Lassa fever and 8 deaths in January. He made the disclosure in an interview with Airlines on Sunday in Nakure. Fadrile said the confirmed cases were in 6 local governments of Owo, Akure North, Akure South, Ose, Akoko, Southwest, and Idori.
We lost it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors has called for increased budgetary allocation to the healthcare sector to improve the quality of healthcare delivery in the country. The president of NARD, Dr. Innocent Orji, said this at the end of the 3-day National Executive Council meeting of the association in Uyo on Saturday. Dr. Orji said that the NEC of NARD also urged the Federal Ministry of Health to expedite action on checking brain drain by implementing the 1-for-1 policy on replacement of exited doctors and clinical staff.
9 persons, including 2 children, were on Sunday killed after a 20-foot container fell on a commercial bus in the Ojoleba area of Lagos State. Lagos State Emergency Management Agency confirmed the death and added that 1 person sustained injuries.
And moving on to sports, Novak Djokovic won a record extended 10th Australian Open and a record equaling 22nd Grand Slam men's title by using all of his talents and nails to see off Stefanos Tsitsipas. Serbia's Djokovic started strongly and dug deep in the second set on his way to a 6-3, 7-6, 7-6 victory.
Super Eagles attacker Ademola Lookman has credited his maturity and experience for his excellent goals returned in only his first season in the Italian Serie A. Lookman netted his 12th Serie A goal of the campaign to power Atlanta through a convincing 2-0 win over struggling Sampdoria at the QS Stadium on Saturday. I think that will be the convenience for you.
Academy, always a leader. Thinking of where to get qualitative education for your child? Think of Global Leaders Academy. Our creche, nursery, primary and secondary schools are established in tandem with global standards with qualified and experienced teachers. At Global Leaders Academy, we have state-of-the-art facilities such as comfortable hostel accommodation with maximum security, well-equipped science laboratory, school buses, adequately furnished library and many more. Oh yes, worship centers are available to accommodate each student's preferred religion. We also take our students for excursion on a regular basis. These and many more reasons are why Global Leaders Academy has been a choice school for parents who desire qualitative education for their children. Visit us today at Global Leaders Academy, located at Plot 1AMB, Oroki Estate, Lameko Junction, Oshobo, or call 0815-928-0037. At Global Leaders Academy, we are not led, we lead, and always a leader.
The federal government has formally transferred the custody and management of the Ahmadu Bello Stadium, Kaduna, to the Kaduna State government in line with the implementation of the National Sports Industry Policy, which centers on subnational government as well as private sector involvement in sports development in Nigeria. The Minister of Sports and Youth Development, Mr. Sunday Dari, alongside with the Governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, who both signed the Memorandum of Understanding on behalf of the federal government and Kaduna State government, reiterated the commitment of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration to sports development in Nigeria.
Czech top seeds Barbadora Sikova and Katrina Sinakova successfully defended their Australian Open women's doubles crown on Sunday to extend their dominant Grand Slam streak. The pair are gone Japan's 10th seeded Shuko Ayama and Ena Sibahara 6-4, 6-3 to post their 24th straight win at a major after triumphing last year at the Australian Open Wimbledon and US Open. And with that sports story, we have come to the end of today's edition of Headlines. Join our colleagues tomorrow for another scintillating package. My name is Ulushola Omodofe.
I am Olubumi Ajiboye Agbola.
And the producer for this program is Moturayo Ayigba. The production advisor is Abimbola Babatunde. We say
good morning.
It's entertaining. It's educating.